You read that title correctly, ladies and gentlemen. I know it sounds ridiculous, and my last theory didn't age all that well, but just give me a couple minutes, and I think I can explain why I feel pretty confident in this claim. Of course, I could be totally wrong and overthinking things, but where's the fun in that? Now that Teapot 20 is out and we know one's backstory and motivations, I think I can make a decent guess about how Teapot's gonna end. Which is actually something I want to discuss first. I just lied to you. I just don't see Teapot ending with the defeat of one or anything like that. Simply because, well, just look at the state of everything. Two's power is gone, half the cast is dead, the world is in perpetual darkness, and is on the brink of total collapse. Why would the contestants possibly continue competing with everything going on? It just doesn't make sense. Everything surrounding one will probably be the focus for a while. Once it's taken care of, the competition will resume after. Let me also make this clear. This does not mean I think one isn't the main antagonist of the season, because she clearly is, but I don't necessarily think that means she'll be the final obstacle for the cast to overcome this season. So, let's take a look back at what we learned from Teapot 20. 3 wasn't some evil accomplice or psychotic lunatic like many initially believed. She was a well-meaning person who accidentally broke one's trust, and as a result was physically broken beyond repair. And that's how she's been for the past 16 years. In order to rectify her mistake, one has begun taking the power of the other Algebrailians, partially due to her vendetta against them, but also so she can properly fix 3 and make up for the mess she made. It all seems fairly clear-cut, but let's think about how that'll play out. Firstly, there's no way anyone has the power to stop one at this moment. All the Algebrailians are isolated from one another and would get easily overpowered by one, who already has the power of 4 numbers at this point. None of the contestants have the power to stop her either. Sure, Snowball has some of Two's powers, but what good is that if he's trapped in the elimination area with seemingly no way out? Dora is relatively strong, but at best she'd disorient one for a couple seconds. I guess Leafy was able to make her angry, but something tells me that isn't much help as one continues to get more powerful. Now, you might be wondering, isn't X the most powerful Algebrailian? Shouldn't he be able to stop her? Well, while I don't think X will stop one, I do think he can overpower her. One wouldn't think of X any differently than the other Algebrailians she's defeated up until that point, so if X is able to discover what exactly makes him the strongest, I think he can easily win. But, once X does beat one, she'll just flee from the fight and say she doesn't need X's power to bring 3 back. Everything is pointing to 1 and 3 properly reuniting once 1 has taken the power of everyone else, except X. And it's at that moment where she has everyone's powers where I think it all goes wrong. But let's just hypothetically say 1 is successful in fixing 3. Then what? 3 will only be more angry at 1 for leaving her in that unstable state for a decade and a half. 1 will get upset again, they fight, 3 will probably get her power taken if she hasn't had it taken already, yada yada, and 1 goes insane or something like that. While this does seem like a possibility, it just doesn't feel right to me, at least because 1's character is built on that relationship she had with 3 and how it was destroyed by her actions. The 2 will most certainly have some sort of reconciliation by the end, but it just wouldn't make sense for 3 to be the one to apologize first, as she frankly would have no reason to. Everything 1 is doing is to serve her goal of trying to fix things between her and 3. But narratively, I think it'd be only fitting if once again she accidentally made things worse. Remember what 4's final warning was to 1? 1 wouldn't be able to control the power she now possesses? Well, something tells me there was more weight to what 4 said than 1 thought. 1 will try to use her ridiculous newfound power in an effort to bring value back to 3, but she ends up losing control of it and makes 3 even more unstable, giving her a significant boost in strength and power, but making 3 lose even more of herself. 1 will quickly be overpowered and have her power taken by 3, mostly because 1 will be in denial over what she just did and not want to fight back, and being forced to face the repercussions of everything she spent all of Teapot doing, without any power to save her. Since I do believe 1 is going to have some sort of redemption arc, I think this is the perfect place to start it, since at this point, 1 would have nothing and be forced to think about her past actions. Hey, before I start this section, just know everything from here on out is almost purely speculation. There's not a whole lot, if any, evidence of anything I'm saying actually happening, so just take it with a grain of salt. So, you may be thinking, now that 3 has everyone's powers, 1 will definitely have to work with everyone she's wronged to fix her mistake, right? Well, yes, but also kinda no. Let's just take a look back at Teapot 20's ending. Once 1 catches 9 and begins stealing their power, it sort of looks like 9's being absorbed into her, doesn't it? Something tells me every time 1 catches someone, they'll also be absorbed into her. much like the contestants were during the BFB days, trapping them. Then, once 3 takes 1's powers, she'll be trapped inside of 3, alongside the other Algebrailians, including 1 who would be absorbed from the inside. At this point, 1 will have to directly confront everyone else on equal footing, now that none of them have their powers. This is where I think 1's redemption arc will begin. Now that 1 truly understands the severity of her actions, she'll finally be able to realize all the terrible things she did to get here, while at the same time calling out everyone else for trapping her inside the moon for 14 years. Both parties will reconcile and eventually work together to try and save 3 from the inside. Now, this all seems pretty neat, but we still need to figure out what exactly the contestants' roles are in all this. If 3 does go on an uncontrollable rampage using everyone's powers, frankly none of the contestants would stand much of a chance. Obviously, there's X who should be able to put up a decent fight, but even here, I don't think he'd be able to win or even hold off 3 that long. Well, I believe this is where a certain neglected contestant makes his grand return. We know the source of all the Algebrailians' powers, the Yoyolite, came from space. But we don't know the exact origins of the mineral. We can see it did have some point of origin in TPOT 20 with the Glimmer 1 sees in the sky. So, where am I going with this? Well, I believe the Yoyolite came from the announcer's homeworld, as we still haven't gotten a clear look at this planet outside of a ball pit. Maybe that's intentional. They could be hiding something. And guess who went with the announcer at the end of TPOT 20 back into space? When Balloony eventually comes back and rejoins the main cast, he'll bring more Yoyolite. Probably not even understanding the immense power it holds, he'd probably just bring it back as a cool souvenir for everyone. And subsequently, greatly boosting the strength of X. Now, it doesn't seem like the contestants have the ability to absorb the Yoyolite, but we know the Algebrailians can. So X could take all of its power, give it to 2 in the contestants, and now everyone can be a part of this big final battle, with the contestants, X, and 2 working together to stop 3's rampage in the real world, and the rest of the Algebrailians, including 1, working together to fix 3 from the inside. I don't want to make any assumptions as to what happens after, since this theory is already about to devolve into fanfic territory, but I'm going to end this theory off by saying 3 will be restored, and 1 will make amends with her. I won't go into detail about the moralities regarding 1 and the rest of the Algebrailians, since I want to dedicate a separate video to that. But for now, that's a wrap on this little theory of mine. I am interested to see how 1's storyline will play out because, like I said in the intro, there's still an entire competition that needs to be finished, and it definitely isn't going to be continuing anytime soon. But what do you all think? Do you think 3 will be the season's final villain, or do you guys have any other ideas? I try to read as many comments as I can, so feel free to share your thoughts down below. That's all for today, everyone, and I will see you all next time.